Okay, so today we're going to simplify expressions, and this is combining what we learned when we learned to distribute and we learned to combine like terms. So it's taking both skills into one. But let's first recap the distributive property. This is when you have a value outside the parentheses that needs to be multiplied times everything inside the parentheses. So I'm not gonna go over every single example because it's pretty straightforward, and we may not have gone over. Well, I'm going to go over all the examples just for the sake of this video, so you can fast forward through to find if there were any questions you might have had, and I'll go over them. And then you're welcome to skip around the video. But let's start with number 1. So on number 1, okay, I'm going to distribute 7 times everything inside the parentheses. So I'm going to just remember, anytime you have a variable by itself, you notice this x right here, there's a 1 in front, not a 0, okay? So let's start. 7 times 1x is 7x. 7 times positive 4 is positive 28, okay? And I'm done. Number 2, 2 times positive 1b is 2b. And 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Number 3, negative 4 times 1y is negative 4y. Negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12. Number 4, negative 5 times 1m is negative 5m. And negative 5 times negative 2, be careful because this sign goes with it, negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. Now, you're like, Miss, number 5, I don't see anything that needs to be multiplied. Well, you see this negative. This is anytime there's something by itself, it's not negative 0, it's a negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to distribute negative 1 times everything. Negative 1 times 1y is negative 1y. Negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9. So just be careful with the negative in front. Number 6, be careful anytime you have a variable by itself, there's a 1 in front, so this one's negative 1b. 8 times negative 1b is negative 8b. 8 times positive 4 is 32. Oops, positive 32. Number 7, negative 4 times negative 1w is positive 4w. Negative 4 times negative 10 is positive 40. This is where I showed you that trick about the triangle for your mental math here. If it's positive and 2 negatives. So if I have a negative times a negative, that makes it positive. If I have a positive times a negative, that makes it a negative. So it's a quick little trick. Number 8, 5 times 2m is 10m. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Number 9, negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12. So watch your signs. Number 10, 3 times 1m is 3m. And 3 times 1n is positive 3n. Sounds a little different, but it's just thinking of it like 2 different variables. Number 11. Okay, so this is where we have a variable being multiplied times everything inside. Okay, so you're like, Miss, how do I do that? So think about this. When you do basic multiplication, you know 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 5 is 20, whatever the case may be. When you have a variable times a variable and you don't know what those numbers are, how do you show multiplication? Well, think about it. X times y. If I don't know what x is and I don't know what y is, just show x times y. X times y, when they're side by side like that, think of that as multiplication. So xy, that's it. Then I have x times positive 4. In my mind, I know it's x4, right? But because we need to have the number as the coefficient in front, it's going to be plus 4x, not plus x4, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So that one's a little tricky. You don't see it too often like that, but you could. Number 12, d times c. Again, I don't know what d is. I don't know what c is. There's no way to combine the two and make one of them disappear. So you have to show d times c is just dc, okay? D times negative 4. In my mind, I want to say negative d4, but I have to do negative 4d. I have to put the constant, the coefficient first, okay? So this is where it goes up a level, so be careful on these. 13. 6a times 1b is 6ab. I'm just multiplying a times b. 6a times 2c. 6 times 2 is positive 12, and a times c is just ac. Weird, I know. 14. 2 times 1x is 2x. 2 times negative 1y is negative 2y. And 2 times 8 is positive 16. 15. X times 2y is 2xy. Notice the 2's in front, and I'm just multiplying x times y. X times negative 5z, well, 1 times negative 5 is negative 5. And x times z, I can't show that, so I'm just going to do xz. And then x times 1 is 1x. I know it looks wonky, and that is a z, not a 2. Okay, we're almost done with this first section. When we involve fractions, this is where if you don't know your fraction rules, you really need to rely on the calculator for that basic math. Because if we have the calculator in our hand and we're able to use it, then you need to use it. Great to know all the fraction rules, but it's nice to rely on a calculator. So 1/4 times 8x. So I do 1/4 times 8. You can't put the x in there, so don't try. Is 2, so 2x. Notice the x is still there though. Okay, then I do 1/4 times negative 4, because the negative in front of the 4 you have to include is negative 1. And there's nothing next to it because there was no variable. Okay, especially on number 17, you got some crazy fractions. So I'm going to distribute 1/6 times 3/5 x. So 1/6 times 3/5, and don't put the x, just put 3/5, is 1/10. But here on paper is where I need to remember the 1/10 x. And that is a plus 18, by the way. So I'm going to do 1/6 times positive 18. And I get plus 3. And there's no variable, so it's just plus 3. Last one on this section, okay, is negative 1/8 times 4/5. So I do negative 1/8 times 4/5. I got negative 1/10 x, because the x was being multiplied. And then negative 1/8 times negative 24 is positive 3. And there's no variable on that one because there was not a variable being multiplied. Okay, so that was just distributing. That was recapping what we learned a couple of days ago. What we're going to do for today is combine that with combining like terms. So what it means though is there's a certain order you need to follow. The first thing you need to do is distribute. That's the first step. Then after you distribute whatever is outside the parentheses, then you combine like terms. You try to look for anything that has the same last name. So let's start easy. I'm not going to stress too much about the fractions because your assignment doesn't have fractions, but in this video I will include it. If you don't want to overwhelm yourself, don't watch that part of the video, but if you want to know what would happen, then you can keep watching. So when I get there, you'll know. So if I start with number 1, I see 8 and parentheses. That means that involves distributing. So I'm going to take care of that first. Notice negative 6x is not inside the parentheses, so I'm not applying the 8 to that. The 8 only gets multiplied times whatever's inside the parentheses. So 8 times 2x is 16x, and 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. And since I didn't touch the negative 6x, I'm going to bring it down, okay? This is where I look for combining like terms. So we took care of step 1, step 2 now. So I start at the beginning and I look for anything that has x. That one doesn't, but this one does. And now I read it from left to right. 16x minus 6x is 10x. And then I look for anything that could look like negative 24, and there's not anything else, so I just bring it down. And there's my answer. So it's just 2 steps in one, okay? Look at number 2. There are 2 sets of parentheses. That means I need to distribute twice. So be careful on this one especially. Let me start at the beginning. 9 times 2k is 18k. 9 times negative 4 is negative 36. Okay, I'm going to pause right here. If I look at this second set of parentheses, I am not distributing a positive 2, I'm distributing a negative 2. You always have to pay attention to the sign in front. So I'm going to distribute negative 2 for this second parentheses. Negative 2 times 7k is negative 14k. Negative 2 times negative 12 is positive 24. Okay, if I lost you, go rewatch that. Now, if I combine like terms, I'm going to start at the beginning. I have 18k. 18k, so I'm looking for anything that has k also as a last name. That one doesn't, this one does. So I read left to right. 18k's minus 14k's is 4k. Then I look at negative 36 and positive 24 are the only ones that do not have a last name. Negative 36 plus 24 is negative 10? no, negative 12. And if you want to triple check your math, make sure you rely on that calculator. And it was, yay, okay. All right, number 3. I only see 1 set of parentheses, so I'm not going to even worry about that 10 and the negative y at the end. But you're like, Miss, what do I distribute if there's nothing in front? What did we talk about? There is a 1 in front, but in this problem, there is not just a 1, it's a negative 1. So I'm going to distribute negative 1. First things first, though, I'm going to bring the 10 down because I did not touch it. Negative 1 times y is negative 1y. Negative 1 times negative 6 is plus 6. Now, that does not apply to the negative y outside, so I'm just going to bring that down. It's only whatever's inside the parentheses. Now I combine like terms. If I start at the beginning, I'm looking for anything that's like 10, so plus 6. Then I read it left to right. 10 plus 6 is 16. Now I look at negative 1y. I look for anything that has a y, so does this one. So what's negative 1y minus 1y? Be careful, it's actually negative 2y because negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. Now, here's where I want to show you something. Yes, this is correct. 16 minus 2y is correct. But how you're going to see it written is with the variable first. So they're actually going to put negative 2y plus 16. It's the exact same expression, but it's rearranged, okay? So just FYI if you ever see that. Okay, let's keep going. So the longer the expression, the more you need to take your time. First, we take care of any parentheses. So 6 is not a part of the parentheses, so I'm going to bring it down. I see this set of parentheses, so I'm going to distribute the positive 8. Positive 8 times 4y is positive 32w, sorry, not y. Positive 8 times negative 7 is negative 56. Okay, slow down, take a breath, and we keep going. So you're like, Miss, nothing to distribute. There is a 1 in front, but it's not just a 1, it's a negative 1. So negative 1 times 2w is negative 2w, and negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. Okay, now I look for combining like terms. If I start at the beginning, I look for anything that is like a 6, a number by itself. That one, nope. This one, yes, and this one. So then I read it left to right. 6 minus 56 is negative 50, and negative 50 minus 1 is negative 51. Then I have my w's. 32w minus 2w is positive 30W. Now, this is correct. I would not count it wrong. But if this was a multiple choice question on a test or on the EOC at the end of the year, you're going to need to know what it looks like rearranged. So rearranged, they would put positive 30W first minus 51 after. Same exact thing, just rearranged. So in algebra, we really tell you to be flexible with how you are used to seeing your answers. Okay, so here it goes, the fractions. You will not see fractions on the assignment for today. You could see them in the future, so I'm going to include it in the video. So let me take a deep breath before I get started. Okay, same exact process. I'm going to distribute 9/4 times 10/3. And I don't know about you, but I got lazy this year and I'm doing my calculator. So I'm going to type my fractions in, 9/4 times 10/3 is 15 halves x. Then I take 9/4 times -4, because of negative in front, is -9. Okay, we took care of the first parentheses. Let's take a breath again. I'm going to distribute -1/4, not just 1/4. So I do -1/4 times 2 is -1/2 x. Then I do -1/4 times -8 is +2. Okay, take a deep breath. Now, we are going to take care of like terms. Like terms means if I start at the beginning, I'm looking for anything with x, and -1/2 does. Again, rely on that calculator, people. I'm going to take 15 halves minus 1/2. So I take 15 halves minus 1/2. Not minus -1/2, minus 1/2. If you read it from left to right, the math is super easy. And I get +7. Where'd those fractions go? And I get 7x. Okay, then I take -9 plus 2. -9 plus 2 is -7. Wow, starts out so difficult when it's in a simple answer. All right, last one with fractions. Bear with me, we're almost there. I have 7/8 times 4/5, 7/10 x. Don't forget the x. That is plus 16. It looks like a division. 7/8 times 16 is plus 14. That is a positive there. When it prints, it looks faded. I'm going to take positive 3/5 times 1/2. So 3/5 times 1/2 is positive 3/10 x. My goodness, mechanical pencils. Okay, and then I'm going to take 3/5 times -10. Be careful there. And that's -6. All right, so we did the hard part. Typing buttons. Anyway, I start from the beginning. 7/10 x also has an x there. So I'm going to 7/10 plus 3/10. I'm sure you could do that in your head. 7/10 plus 3/10, because it already has a common denominator, is positive 1x. Okay, nice and clean. Then I take 14 minus 6. 14 minus 6, I can hopefully do that in my head, is positive 8. Okay, so rely on that calculator, especially with fractions, or just your brain is fried and you just can't do the mental math. Trust the calculator. Of course, if you write it wrong, then you do it wrong, so make sure you write it correctly.